This is gonna be a very unique project. We are throwing a gender reveal party for a few of our friends. I am building the reveal. They wanted something unique and I came up with this idea. Got inspired from Garrett. Whenever he worked here, he built a set of headlights that had this starry night reflector. Couldn't find any pictures of it. I was looking, but I couldn't find any. What Garrett did was take one of those starry night headliner kits that you see in like luxury cars or very, very custom cars, and he installed it inside of a reflector of a headlight. And I had this idea of doing an entire starry night board and having boy written on it and girl written on it. And at the touch of a button, it would have some sort of sequence and then land on boy or girl. I don't know if it's possible, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Oh, I only have 1 week. Okay, let me show you some of the materials that I'm gonna use to start this project. This is one of those like trifold project boards for like science fairs. We need some sort of black fleece over top of it, hot glue gun, fabric glue, 1 push pin. That is everything laid out on the bench. Before I get too far into the project, I need to figure out if I can put addressable LEDs onto the fiber optics. This driver is how they are technically supposed to run. I guess there's like a big old LED in there and then that little guy spins and it gives it like a twinkle effect. And that snaps in there so that it gets all of the LED in there. But it's not addressable and I can't use a Blue Ghost module on it, which is what I want to do. I did go ahead and plug in the LED motor that it's supposed to come with so I could test out what it looks like, how bright it is, and the twinkle mode. It's doing a little bit of the twinkle. Actually kind of hard to pick up on camera. There you go, now you can kind of see it. But my real concern is making sure that these LEDs, the addressable LEDs, are going to be as bright as these. Because this is a good brightness level, but I want to make sure that these will be just as bright. Side note, I can't imagine installing all of this in your car. There's just a lot going on here. The challenge here is getting the addressable LED to sit flush against the fiber optics. It can't sit off to the side of it, otherwise it will not light up on this end. It has to sit here. I'm gonna try like the side emitting. I think they're like 25 LEDs, and I also have some 50 pixels. So I'm gonna try all of those and see which one lights it up the best on that end there. And that is what I was afraid of. It's not bright at all. Just look at this, it's lighting up the bench. This one is, you can barely see it. So that's a bit unfortunate. I do like how the other one lights up compared to the original one though. You can really see how the colors are starting to change in different strands and everything. I'm gonna try some other chips and see if it's gonna be different. It's been about 2 hours of different testing. I've tried all of these LEDs and these LEDs, and it's just not gonna get bright enough. I even put a bunch of LEDs inside here, and I still couldn't get it to be bright enough for daytime use, for what we're trying to do. I failed to explain it well enough in the video, but this is where I decided to abandon the Blue Ghost idea, and this is the new idea. What I want is 2 switches. I want a blue switch and a pink switch. Now, you could just use the remote, but in my experience trying to use an RF remote just does not go well. You're gonna have problems. So I did find out that this is ground side switched, so I could change this from white to blue. Just like that. Which is good news because I can have it set to a fade and still have like the motor spinning to give it the twinkle effect. But whenever it's time to actually do the gender reveal, it can still be doing its whole fade thing, but we can just tap into it and have it do the pink or the blue directly. The way that I'm gonna do that is by one, I already tapped into it here. I need to tap into the ground and have 2 of these wires running out. And on the back of the panel, I'll have 1 switch for boy, and then I'm gonna have a whole separate motor. It's gonna control a whole separate thing of fiber optics. And that one is going to be wired up to light up pink. So obviously I'm gonna have to mix the red and the white and should create pink. Now that the LEDs are kind of figured out, we have a plan for that. Now I need to map out exactly how I'm going to spell out boy and girl on the actual board itself. I had one idea. Idea number 1 was to print out individual letters on a sheet of paper and lay it out, and then I could just kind of poke through it. But I could not get Google Docs to make the letters big enough. It would not fill out the page. So I am doing it by hand. I'm definitely not the best artist, but you can kind of get an idea of what we're going for here. Now that I have them completely spelled out, you can see what I'm doing is making some hash marks so that I know where I want to put the outline of each letter. I still have to do those too. After the outline is done, I'm gonna just do random holes all throughout the middle of them, just so that it fills it out, makes it look nice and even. I thought about trying to make it perfect, like a perfect grid throughout the whole thing, but I'm doing it by hand, and if I do it by hand, it's not gonna be exactly perfect, which is just gonna bother me. So just an outline will be good, and then kind of randomize the rest of it. It took a long time, but I did poke through all of the letters. Now I can put the fabric on. All right, this does need to dry up. I unfortunately put too much glue right there, so some of it bled through. But we're gonna come back tomorrow and start poking holes through the back of it into the fabric. The glue is dried, the fabric is on. I was able to trim around the edges, and I started to poke through. Now, I was just poking through with the thumbtack, which is actually installed, but then I couldn't actually see the holes. So I trimmed a bunch of the fiber optic pieces and stuck them through the holes so that I can see exactly where the letters are gonna be. Once I have all of them installed for boy and girl, then I can start poking in more of the stars all around. For some reason, I thought that it would be easier to poke the holes through the front in between the letters, like through the fabric all the way through, which was definitely the wrong way to do it. It was way easier to just poke it through the back. So I ended up not even having to cut a bunch of tiny little fiber optics and put them through the brew to show where the outline was. I ended up just sticking the fiber optics through, already connected and everything. This is going to take a long time. Okay, I poked all the holes through for boy. And again, what I'm gonna do is poke holes to fill in all of the letters, and then I'm going to scatter holes all throughout the rest of the board so that whenever I turn on the blue light for boy, all of the other random stars throughout the whole thing are gonna light up blue as well. I am gonna do the same thing for girl. And to do that, I'm gonna have 2 sets of fiber optics. So I've got one light engine right here, fully laid out. This one's gonna be the blue one. This is gonna be boy. One thing I do need to figure out is where I wanna put the light engine at behind the board, because I'm gonna have it mounted to the frame that this is gonna sit in, and then I can trim all of this because this is so... Lots of good progress has been made. I've got all of the letters done in boy. I've done probably the top half of the board. So now I need to actually flip it over so I can do the bottom half. But first I need to trim all this so I can flip the whole board over and start poking holes and push the fibers through the bottom part. This is kind of exciting because now I can turn these on and just see what it's gonna look like and kind of get a better idea. Now I need to cut all of the fiber optics just like that, but across the whole thing. This is gonna take a while. Now I've got most of the fiber optics installed onto the board. I need to come over here and modify these light engines. What I figured out was this connector right here is controlling the color of the LED. You can actually see the different colors right there: red, green, blue, white. And that little plus sign means power. So that means it's got 1 power in and it's controlling it with 4 different grounds, which means I can just ground out one of the wires change the color of the LED. Then wire that to a switch, put it on the side of the board, and we have a hard wire color. I've already modified this one, and I think it turned out pretty clean. I mean, it's exactly how this one is. This is the RF receiver. So still have the RF receiver. We have our color wire and then our ground one. This is going to be the blue one for boy. This is gonna be the pink one for girl. And for this one, I actually have to have 2 of the colors going to ground. The way that you get colors with the LED is just turning more of the LED on. And done. So we got pink, white, blue. They all still change color. They will all change color with one remote. At the flip of the switches, they will switch to blue and pink. Now for the pink, I did have to tap into 2 of them. So I'm gonna have to wire in some diodes so that it doesn't backfeed the system and mess up some of the other colors. I did unfortunately run out of time to continue filming, but I had my buddy Wes help me out with the frame. He did all of it. So last night at like 8, I went over to his house, we built the frame. Then around 11:30, I came back to my house, painted the frame, let it cure overnight. Then I finished building out this morning. The foam board itself did have a bit of a bow in it after we did the tape and did the fabric. So I ended up putting screws here, here, and here to hold it on. I tried to use staples. The staples did not want to hold. I think the foam board was just a little too thick. Something else that we added that ended up being really helpful was this door on the back. What I originally envisioned was having it be in a completely enclosed box so that you could just move it wherever and you don't have to worry about the strands in the back. Because if you look through here, you can see that everything kind of just hangs out. But I think that the end of my garage actually slopes down a bit, so the board naturally wanted to fall backwards. So the door in the back acted as a kickstand to keep it up. Extremely helpful. One of the next things that I needed to do was extend the power harness. The original one was very short. It was probably just a couple inches after I split it into 3. So I made it like 6 to 8 feet long. And then inside the box, it splits off and goes to all the light modules. Now the next thing that I did, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna actually do, was the switches to change each word individually. There's 3 light modules back here, 1 controlling boy, 1 controlling girl, plus a few extra, and then another one to control all the rest of them. And this was something that I wasn't going to do, the switches, unless I had a little bit of time, and I did. Because it comes with a remote, and you could have just hit pink or blue, and then it would have told you the color, and that would have been your gender reveal. It would be the whole thing would be pink, or the whole thing would be blue. But being able to switch just an individual word, I think, worked really, really well. I don't know, just felt special. We did have the gender reveal today. In this tiny little garage, we had like 30 something people in here. It didn't look like this, it looked like this, which is just so much better. I already had all of these LEDs in here, all of these on here, which really fit the whole gender reveal vibe. They stood on either side of it, and then I got to come over here and hit the switches. I don't feel comfortable actually revealing what they're having. If they want to make that public, they can. Things I definitely learned during this process. 1, do it in reverse of what I did it. By that I mean, build out the frame, have that painted first, then you can do your foam board insert with whatever fabric you want glued onto it. Next, glue in or bolt in your light modules, and then feed all of the fiber optics through the board. I didn't think about it while I was building it, but I genuinely had no idea where the light engines, the light modules would land. So I just kind of had to guess on the proper length, and I was wrong. So some of the lights actually did pull out. I mean, you can see in several spots where it's kind of hard to tell that they're even there right now. But overall, I am very proud of it. It came out looking really, really good.